Hello everyone, and
Hello, everyone.
welcome to the fourth ISGP cast of the ISGP 2 tournament, or ISGP 2020. This one is going to be much shorter than last one. Oh no, not shorter. Less people, I meant. Because I only have Al and Alice in this ISGP cast with me, so it will only be our voices flowing the airways.
Awesome. Aop.
Aop.
Very. Did you actually say Aop? Oh, that's very. What part of England says that a lot?
Like Somerset, Dorset.
Yeah, we're going to be quite analytical on various things in this one, and it's all about kind of like the drama in terms of like rules and like logistics of the tournament that have kind of gone on recently. There hasn't been as many uploads as the previous ISGP cast in the 2 weeks prior to that. But at the moment, groups are becoming way more finalized, and we can actually talk a lot more. We're free to talk about a lot of things because finally some groups are actually, the backlog is being reduced, and like what's been uploaded is not so different to what's already been done. But firstly, I want to get onto the topic of draws and rematches, which is probably one of the bigger controversies of the last couple of days, and it was kind of fueled by the MTB versus Keyford race, which happened the other day. Do you want to discuss about this, Al, about what happened here?
Yeah. So, well, what happened was they organized a goal in Spyro 3, which was they began in Evening Lake. Now, please help me fill in some of the details because I remember the gist of it, but maybe not the exact.
It was a race to get as many eggs as possible, and
money
every 300
bags.
gems.
Yeah, sorry, not money bags. Sorry, every 300 gems. Yeah, they're counted as an egg. Which you might think, all right, cool. Well, that sounds like a fun run. Yes, but the issue only is that they could have very easily, and indeed they did, finish on the exact same amount of not same amount of gems and eggs, but like an equivalent amount.
Yeah,
and,
points basically. Yeah.
Yes, points. Yes.
This was extremely ironic because in one speed run, and it wasn't too long before this race was recorded, we were talking about how you kind of need deciders for kind of like draws in those kind of races. And Keyford was a big proponent for like going like, oh, well, you have to, if you tie on gems, you have to count lives, then you count talismans, then you count skill points and all this kind of stuff. He was like making a whole big joke about it. And then on his very race, he was not able to set a tiebreaker. Which I think obviously was a huge oversight by both of those competitors, and as since the beginning of the tournament, as since the Vitus versus Daniel Davidson, one of the first races actually recorded, draws have been given 1 point, and they've occurred in 2 different situations. One was the time went the longer than the hour that Kongu set as the maximum amount of time, and the other time it was them being on the same points basically. And myself and Al, and I think Alice, you might have been in favor. We kind of wanted both of these matches to be rematches, and that's mainly because of the situation that, like, when it comes to 1v1 kind of like races in, I think, most like sports, like you can't really get a draw. Like somebody has to win. There shouldn't be no draw in races. There's some draws in sports like football or basketball. There's draws and that shit. Actually, there's probably tiebreakers. But yeah, go on.
I mean, so some of these timed matches could be kind of be likened to football, basically. Basically, the most amount of goals, the most amount of eggs. So I can kind of see where a draw would come in. And I think it's a little bit unfair on MTB and Keyford to single them out for not thinking of a tiebreaker, because there's tons of these races that didn't have tiebreakers.
Yeah.
But true. They were just lucky enough to not land on the same thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So even me and Fisher, we could have tied because we never discussed a tie. But
there's a lot of people, having oversights with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And even me, like I've done some timed races where it's like oh, it's the most orbs, but if you tie on that, it's gems on hand. But even gems on hand could be tied. Like there's a possibility of that. So that's not actually like foolproof either, and it needs to. I think they're going to do this in round 2. Is they're going to mandate that the tiebreaker is something where one person will always be in front of somebody else. And you've got to say Al something.
Yeah, I feel as though if competitors won't want to, or maybe not won't want to, but they won't see implementing tiebreakers as all that important when there are draws exist in the rules of the tournament anyway. So that could also be a reason, I think, is the fact of like,
right.
oh well, we get a point each for a draw, so why would we implement a tiebreaker? Like, I only think that if we're made clear, no, there are no draws, and you fuck up. I'd say if it was actually, if people were told that they both don't get points if they have an oversight and they draw, then I think people will be like, oh shit, okay, right, well, we need to make sure that we actually have a tiebreaker then. So I think that might have potentially affected people's mentalities going into that. But sure, look, it's luckily, I think, as Ratchet was going to say, round 2 will be different. But yeah, sure, look,
yeah, and I can kind of understand where Kongus are coming from with the whole draw thing. Like, as they said, there's like 144 matches to get through, and we can't just be like, going like, all right, this match you got to rematch, this match you're going to rematch, because we want kind of. We don't want the same people to appear several times on the channel, like one match that's like an hour is enough. We don't want them to pop up again with some rematch.
Yeah,
and it kind of makes like people being able to grandstand too, like just by like, we have to rematch. Guess I'm going to have more videos on the channel. So I think it was actually in hindsight, I think it was a better idea to just count things as draws. The only issue with it though is when you can kind of benefit off there being a draw, and without giving out any spoilers, I don't think that is the case in Group A. I don't actually think that Keyford or MTB would actually benefit from their draw, but the fact is that people can benefit off of a draw, and not too sure exactly what's happening with Group B when it comes to that, but yeah, it makes me kind of worried that like someone can literally get to round 2 because they, picked a goal that didn't have a tiebreaker and they got a draw with someone else, and it was like kind of an hour-long match or something like that. I'm very much against people getting through to round 2 because of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too.
Well, yeah, I think that mostly covers it. They did touch it on a bit in the weekly roundup. So I guess we'll move on. I'll just say that round 2. There's absolutely going to be mandated that people always have a tiebreaker, as far as I can tell. Because I don't think draws would be allowed when like the stakes are so much higher in round 2. Where a draw could really kind of just fuck over like a group.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
All right, so let's move on to coaching. All right, so this has been a big drama, but it was something that actually happened a couple of weeks ago because Group C, as you may or may not know, was massively delayed. It's all caught up now, but at the time, like there was like a massive backlog where matches were being uploaded that were like 3 weeks old or something like that.
Yeah, 19,
thanks,
20 days old. Yeah.
Thanks, James. Yeah, if you're watching.
Yeah. Cheers, James.
Yeah, it was. There was some issues. Anyway, it doesn't matter now, but it did mean that something that I think that happened before the last cast, I don't think we could actually talk about, which is the whole Alice versus Fromond situation, where it was. I mean, it's been revealed now. They said it in the weekly roundup that both Angus and Andrew were coaching Fraser to win that race. What do you think about that whole situation, Alice? You were the victim of that.
The victim
of that situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, at the time, I was pretty fuming about it. I'm kind of over it now, pretty much, because it did happen. So it did happen. What was it? Probably the 5th of May, I think it was.
Yeah,
so
I think it was.
So as of recording, that's 3 weeks ago exactly. So obviously, it's only just gone up on the channel. It's nice to see some people in the comments kind of taking my side about it, and Fraser's lying as well. I enjoyed that a lot.
The question is kind of like, should what Fraser did during the race, because this is actually separate to the coaching issue. This is like kind of the lying issue. Like, should that just be completely outlawed, where people can completely bullshit about where they are in a race, or should just be the default that that don't trust anything your opponent says? unless like of course it's mandated, like it's the kind of race where you kind of relies on them telling the truth. But in your kind of race, it didn't actually really matter apart from it would just give you a false sense of security. What do you think about this, Al? Do you think that there should be like a rule saying just you cannot do this, or do you think it's fair that like kind of I think the current ruling is like you can't do it, but Fraser's allowed to do that. Do you think that's fair?
No, it's not fair at all. I think the only reason why he, quote, got away with it before was because he was such a lack of a threat that no one really cared. However, in a situation or an environment where he is a threat to people, i.e. not like a physical threat or otherwise, but I mean as in a threat to defeat them, then yes, he should actually say where he is. Otherwise it's if it throws everything into disrepute and it's bullshit. So yeah, I think it should be a rule. Don't lie about where you are. If you can, I don't know, if you do it continually, then maybe not disqualify someone, but give them like a penalty or something, like a time penalty or something like that. I just think it's within the bounds of sportsmanship. That's not very sportsmanlike. So
yeah, well, I see it more as like me like shitting on Fraser in the comments and stuff like that, like calling him an unsportsmanlike. Like I will say that he is being unsportsmanlike, but I know that at the end of the day, it's just a kind of like an internet tournament, which as we'll talk about later, the competition really isn't actually the main kind of end goal of the tournament. So like I don't have anything against him personally for his lying and stuff like that, but I think that I think it's too hard to kind of mandate that people can't do it. I think basically they should just be judged as a competitor for doing something like that. So he was unsportsmanlike for doing that kind of stuff, and we should be allowed to obviously say that. Like I mean there is kind of like a weird kind of like mishmash of like sincerity and like what we're just saying because it's part of the the fun competition. But I think people should be called out at least in jest for that kind of behavior. But I don't think it should be mandated because it's kind of just too. I mean, it's too late too. If this was the case, I think Fraser should have been thrown out ages ago. He did a similar thing in 2018, but it was actually it wasn't as bad because what he did, I know in my race with him, was that he kind of made it sound like he was doing better than he was rather than the other way around. And I think that's kind of, it's sort of harmless because
that's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah,
I had no problem with that.
Yeah, but I think that like it becomes kind of like a weird kind of thing where like oh, you're banning this kind of lying but you're okay with this kind of lying, and it should just be a thing where, and I think this people can learn from now on, one, never underestimate your competitor, and two, never trust your competitor. That should be a component of these races. But yeah, still definitely very unsportsman of him to do that.
I think that race was just an unfortunate like coincidence of Fraser lying, Fraser doing better than expected, or like defying expectations basically, and him being coached, which just led to the situation that we had, like those three factors basically.
What a beautiful situation it was.
Exactly, but Fraser can't get away with being bad anymore.
I really hated it.
I know you did.
I think it was just terrible.
I thought it was hilarious. I'm sorry, I thought it was hilarious.
I don't have anything against the coaching actually, because I think that's part of the strategy, and that's become a huge thing in this tournament that we haven't seen in previous tournaments. But yeah, I don't think what Congoos were doing was anything kind of bad or malicious, or should be something that should be banned. But I think most people can agree that there's kind of two different kinds of coaching. There's the coaching where you kind of sit them down, not during the run, just like in your off time, and kind of tell, like, sort out what they should do for their goal, give them kind of a strategy for their goal, maybe like give them tips, or like have them kind of stream and you tell them what to do or something like that. But when it comes to the actual race, coaching during the actual race should be completely banned, because that is different. That is very different. Because it's like,
yes.
Although,
because go on.
I'm still a little bit unsure on this part of the situation, but a little bit of behind the scenes when we were discussing the race goal. Me not knowing Fraser had been coached previously, it was actually Angus that suggested the race goal. And I don't know if Fraser was coached towards that specific goal before I even knew what the goal was.
Yes, he was. Yes, it was the specific goal.
Lovely.
And I'll just throw it in there. I was also involved in the situation-ish. They felt that they had to tell me, otherwise I would have pointed it out. So I was like in the call with like fucking Fraser as he was like getting really good at Spyro.
Again, because it came from Angus, I didn't suspect anything.
You knew the whole time.
Yep. Yeah, I knew the whole time. Yeah,
loads of people knew the whole time.
Yeah, I'm a good actor.
Yeah, you kept on saying like, "Oh, why wasn't I part of this? I wanted to be part of this." That
was just me. That was just me. I was just acting. Yeah. No. There you go. There's the reveal to everyone. So I was in. I was in on it too.
Well, I was in on it too, but I wasn't very subtle about it, to be honest. But I did kind of. I try to act like what I would be like if I didn't know anyway. Like I would have probably been like, "This is real fishy." Like and then because I think like Crystal Fisher, Andrew admitted in some call or something like that like, or he said that like Angus trained him, and I kind of latched onto that and kind of made it a big, like,
yep.
Yeah. So I don't actually think I really spoiled anything. I think I was just acting like I would normally, and overall the whole thing was pretty fucking funny.
Yep.
So I don't have any issues with them actually coaching him, but yeah, during a race, especially when somebody is live streaming and the other person can't, or warrant or something like that, it gives a massive advantage to whomever is live streaming when people can coach them. There is also a situation with like someone like Meteora Girl where it's not even a live stream, it's actually being there in person, kind of watching them and telling them what to do, because like Angus would do things like he would, and Jess was not really a big fan of it. Actually, she hated this, where he would like on the screen kind of like put his finger on where she's supposed to go and like have her follow where his finger.
It was like more of a hindrance than anything. I'd fucking
hate
that. Well, that's the thing. So, but I think it's difficult to police that stuff because you don't know actually what's happening. So, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know exactly what the ruling should be, but like I think live streaming is causing a lot of issues where people are getting an advantage simply because they have like people being able to see what they're doing and telling them what to do.
Although interestingly, it's provided some disadvantage as well. I heard that someone basically just got put off. I can't remember who it was actually, but someone was basically people were reacting to their gameplay. And
that was Vitus, I think, when he was streaming. I think he being put off. He was streaming against I think it was Adam Gladiator, and I feel as though he can verify otherwise, but I felt as though he was put off by everyone pointing out what he was like doing and shit. So it can be a handicap in that sense. But I don't know, I just feel as though that's just kind of like, if you stream your footage, that's what people are going to do. And, it's just...
I think overall it's a good thing because it allows the commentators to react. Because some of these videos where there's no stream, live stream, basically.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at it and it's like neck and neck, and I'm like, why aren't these guys fucking reacting to this? Like, this is amazing. But obviously you guys can't see it, so you don't get that element of it.
No, I think it's good. I think it just, there should be some rules on like what you can say or do well. Because I think overall it makes speedruns better when they are live streamed.
I'll just quickly say to people, go back and watch the Fraser versus Alice and notice how like Andrew especially is getting very mad at Kiefer. It's because like Kiefer was like, he was ruining our plans basically, so it makes it all the more funny if you know that was what was going on. So
I also loved it when like Angus, who was in on it too, was like asking like Fraser like how many gems he had, and like Fisher was like, "Oh no, you don't have to say that. No."
That was hilarious.
He doesn't have to say that.
And someone was at the start, I think I was in like Sunny Flight or something, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you can coach Fraser all you like," and then Angus and or Fisher were like, yeah, go and give him a bit of coaching. And then as soon as someone like deigns to like say, "Oh, you missed something," he's like, no, don't do that. I was like, shit, these guys.
I also played a part in making Alice feel complacent, where I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Alice has it
exactly.
in
He
the
was like,
bag." I
"Oh,
was
it's
just,
gonna be a massacre." Like,
yeah, I just, yeah, God, we were good, man.
See you later.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this
I'll get you back later.
I'm a
this was hard.
salesperson. I have to be. I don't like to be that though. I hate being like that. It's not fun. But in this case, it was. I don't know, it was fun. Anyway,
You know,
cool.
you have to do it when it's necessary. All right. Okay.
Yes, I have
So
to do when it's necessary.
right. So let's move on to actually, I firstly just want to talk about the grand final before we talk about the a bit more controversial round 3. But the grand final, from what I could tell, it's going to be a sort of like a. It's not really a best of 3. It's kind of a best of 3, but not really. So what will happen is that there'll be one race in Spyro 1, race in Spyro 1, that race in Spyro 2, one race in Spyro 3.
Oh my God! Yes, that's my idea. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
then
It's pretty good.
people will be given points based on where they come on each race. So it might be, say, 10 points for first, 5 points for second, 2 points for third, or something like that. And then whoever has the most points at the end wins. And there'll be some kind of tiebreaker thing. I don't know if it's going to be a 1v1 race or something else, but yeah, that's kind of the idea we're going with. And I think it's better because I think the last ISGP was very anticlimactic in that we had like 145 races in round 1, and then the grand final was just one 1 hour race. Like, it was very close, but it kind of didn't feel very tense somehow.
Yeah.
And I think that having 3 matches, it balances out things a little bit, because I think it's very, very strange to just see like a video uploaded like every 8 or 9 hours on the channel, and then the grand final, it's just one match, just goes up, and then it's there, and that's it.
Yeah.
think that's
I
very
agree.
strange.
So are
Yeah.
you going? Oh, are Kongu's going to stagger it almost, or is it going to be one mega video?
It should be
I
staggered.
think
it'll be
staggering would be
Yeah.
staggering would be far
Yeah.
better.
I think it'll be staggered, and I think there'll be like kind of a random draw for like what order of games they might play, or they might just go like 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, I think that's going to be very fun. So going now to talk about round 3. So myself, Angus, and I guess Fissure, although I didn't really hear too much about what he had to say because I was kind of going through Angus. We had a bit of a tiff about round 3. So round 3 will be singles matches. It will just be a one race, 1v1 for each person, and then the winner will go through to the grand final. The loser, I think, has a chance in the Classic Speedrunning Championship. And I was saying to them that it would be better if it was a best of 3 for each race, and that's for the same reason again that I talk about the grand final. How, like, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be, so round 1 is going to be 144 races. Round 2 is going to be 24 races or more if there's a triple threat. Then we go for round 3, which goes to 4. And I think it's going to be a big kind of like shock to a lot of people on the channel, having these many races uploaded very quickly. And then it just goes to like, there's 4 races and that's it. And you could do some promos, you could do some build-ups to them, but like, I think a best of 3 would make it much more interesting and intense, where once again they'll have to play all 3 games. They can't just rely on one game, and you could have a situation where someone wins one game, someone wins the other, and then it's got like a final for both of them. And I think it's a good reward to for people who have done so well in both rounds 1 and 2. If you're getting to the semifinals, it means you've done a bloody good job. And you should deserve, whoever your competitor is, to have 3 races, and so just so that, like, if you have an off day, you don't just completely just get discarded. And I know the Classic Speedrunning Championship is kind of like a decent consolation prize, but I think it's nothing compared to actually winning like an ISGP tournament, which I think, if people have put this much effort in, should have a good as possible chance to do. What do you think about this, Al?
God, I'm very 50-50. It's like I agree with you, but I agree with them at the same time. Because, okay, so I'll explain. So the nature of a lot of knockout competitions in kind of mainstream sports, if you will, is indeed that you'll have round robins, which, in the World Cup, for instance, many matches are done, and then the closer it gets to the quarterfinal, the semi-final, just less and less are done, and that's kind of just the nature of the beast. However, that is a much different medium, because this is speedrunning video games, and there's a selection of 3 video games. So I think that if there was a situation in those tournaments where they were playing 3 different sports, then yes, maybe. Yeah. So what I'm thinking maybe could be an alternative is for round 3 or the semifinals. I'm just going to call them semifinals. Just, I know they're not exactly, but I'm just going to call them that anyway. To have maybe they do 2 races in 2 of the games even. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'd ultimately so then the 3 of 3 is left to the grand final to really hype that up, and then the semifinals just 2 out of the 3 games, maybe is what I was thinking. But
the issue there would be if one person won one, the other person won the other. But I don't like.
Oh yeah,
I think,
that's a very good point. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, I could have the third as a tiebreaker, I guess. But
yeah, that's the idea. Like a lot of the best of 3s might end up with just be 2 matches. So it would be like an average of about 10 races as opposed to 4.
Yeah.
I
of course. Yeah. Duh. Right.
Yeah.
God, I feel like
I also think
now. Yeah.
when it comes to something like the semifinals, where there's so much stakes and you've put so much effort in, and you have to kind of defend yourself. I think it also actually makes people want to A, practice a lot more, and B, kind of delay their race a lot more. So there might be a situation where like the channel is going to be absolutely dead for about a week, or there might be some exhibition races or something like that. But like when in terms of actual tournament races, there might be just a week with total radio silence. Whilst if you have a best of 3, people are more inclined to just go do one race, because they know that if they still lose, they still have a chance. And that will mean that like the video will keep on being consistent with videos. And I think, like, I understand what your point, like it kind of sort of undermines the grand final a little bit, but that's a best of 3 and the grand final is also a best of 3. But like, I think this whole tournament already undermines the grand final, because the grand final is like 3 races, and we've got 144 round 1 races, like 24 round 2. Like the grand final does look very small compared to the rest. But what the grand final has, that a best of 3 round 3 would not have, is 4 people in one race. Which only happens in a grand final, and that is what's going to set it apart from round 3. So I don't actually think it would be an issue. But the issue is not necessarily like what's fair, or like what's good for the competition, or what's good for like watching the tournament. The issue is, and this is something that I realized very recently, and it's ISGP's ideology. This is not something that's been spelt out both in 2018 and in 2020. But ISGP, and this is becoming more and more clear as we get on to some of the conversation that happened in race accounting today. I think it was race accounting. No, it wasn't race accounting. It was exhibition races today. Was that ISGP is not about round 3. It's about round 1. And this is why Congoos want to get through things more quickly. So round 3 is going to only go for a week and a half, and it will only feature those 4 races. And they will mandate that if you do not finish your race in a week and a half, you will be replaced by whomever your equivalent is in round 2. So the idea is that we get through things quickly, and we move on to the next thing, which will promote people who are particularly not as good at speedrunning. All right, this is turning into a fucking soapbox, actually. So I don't know what you want to do.
But before we throw it to Alice, I'd just like to mention one thing. I feel like Congoos will have no choice, honestly, in round 3 to do the 3 races, because I think the people who get to round 3 are going to say, "Nah, fuck that. I'm not doing just one game," which, the other person's. I just think it's actually, now that I think about it, I think it's an untenable position. Like, I don't think that the people who get through to round 3 will want to do just one race and that's it. Like, imagine, I don't know, I can't think of someone who's very good at a specific game. Laura, for instance, if she were in, say, I know she's not technically going through to round 2 or whatever, but or even round 3, but let's just say it was her. She's very good at Spyro 1. I imagine she was made to do, I don't know, Spyro 3. She'd be like, oh, like she could feel like, oh, fuck that. Like, I got this far, and now I just have to do this like one game. So yeah. Anyway, throwing to Alice. So what do you think?
I mean, this tournament is so much more competitive than the first one. So you can imagine a situation where two people are being super stubborn about what game they want to do, and it just comes to a deadlock, and either one person relents and does a game that they don't really want to do, or the week and a half passes. Either way, it's kind of souring it almost. And I also feel like you can't have a tournament that's that bottom heavy, like 144 to however many to 4. That is such a shift. I think you really need more content to go up.
Yeah, well, their defense is though that ISGP, the reason that there was a round 1 highlights,
MP Carlson,
yep, is because that's all viewers and competitors care about. So, like, when it comes to, I guess, like, not only watching but also providing good commentary or what creates the best community feel, round 1 is the only round, or I guess the group stages are the only places that can actually do that, and round 3 is essentially kind of like wasted time. So the ideology of ISGP is that it's not about the competition; it's about the entertainment value, and it's about the only thing that the races are for is to act as a framing device to bring out this entertainment through people's commentary. And yes, sometimes the competitiveness can do that, but it also includes competitiveness, and I guess viewership favors competitiveness between people who aren't really that good. So this is why Angus is very much into the idea of a intermediate tournament. I think he's brought it up a couple of times, where it's people who are kind of in the middle. So the belief is that actually it doesn't matter kind of how good people are. It just matters that the race is close and that it's competitive, and the people who are in the race are entertaining people. And I think this is the reason why they want to get through round 3 as quickly as possible, because they see it as one of the more irrelevant parts of the tournament, because it will feature people being very serious. It will feature kind of less kind of like silly goals probably, and less people being silly in the calls. So they kind of want to get through round 3, get through the grand final, and move on to the next thing.
I don't know. I think it's a bit sad to write off three quarters of a tournament just because I think they can be entertaining. I think the people that we have in are very entertaining people. Last time it could be argued that they were just too serious, but I think this time we have people who are really, really good sports, and are really up for having a good time, and a call can make it and break it. And I think we've got some really charismatic people.
I think what didn't happen last time that needs to happen this time is that like there needs to be a lot more kind of build up to these races. There needs to be promos and kind of ISGP talks discussing how they're going to do in these races. And I think at last time they even stopped doing weekly roundups when round 2 was going on as well. Like I was like, where's the weekly roundup? Like nothing to round up, but like it doesn't, like, you should have it. You should just discuss like what's happening with the semifinals, what goal they're doing, like who do you think is going to win, how could this person win, all that kind of stuff. That's what's important.
I think they can make it into something that people care about, especially if you so the ISGP talks are very retrospective, but I think that you can definitely have some kind of preemptive ones asking the competitors, who are you afraid of, what's going on, like what do you think your strategy is.
Whose favorite word is retrospective. So.
Yeah.
round 1 last time was, I think, amazing, and everyone agrees with that. It was one of the probably the best round 1 that has ever been in one of these tournaments, in terms of just entertainment and the community it was creating and stuff like that. But I think really round 2 in the grand final really let the original ISGP down, and I think it's something that they really need to focus on how they can improve this time. And I think a best of 3 would allow people to maybe not be as serious. I know that
that too.
Yes, it was serious people and serious stakes. I think just offset it. I think that this time it's going to be a huge success. Round 2, round 3, grand final. I think I didn't even watch the grand final. I still haven't watched the grand final of ISGP 1, and I won't. because I didn't care. I did not give a fuck. I watched the classic final because that I gave a shit about, because that had fun people in it. And
I don't think that's... Sorry, carry on.
No, it's okay. The only fun people in the other one were Wally and Ewan, but it wasn't enough for... who was in the grand final of ISGP 1, actually?
It was Wally, Toto, Chris, and Katie.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was Wally and Toto, yeah. They obviously I care about them, but the other two I didn't really, I didn't care. I did not want to hear fucking... Yeah, I didn't give a shit. So, yeah, I think that my apathy isn't...
I don't think it's just about the personalities, though. I think the structure of it is incredibly important, too, and also, like...
True.
What other things you do on the channel.
True.
But yeah. Yeah, so I will just say, though, that I think that we can have both. I think we can have a competitive tournament, which is also incredibly entertaining and has good commentary and is fun. I think we can do that. But we need to look at things and see how's the best way we can do that. And I personally would not like to rush through round 3 in the grand final. I think we should take our time a little bit. Give the people who are in those matches the respect they deserve. They've done really well to get through round 1 and round 2. So and we shouldn't be just kind of rushing on to whatever next tournament or thing that we have in mind.
I think people will agree with you in the comments of this cast as well. So
yeah. Okay, well I'm not going to start some petition. And ultimately, if Congress decide whatever. No, I'm not going to do that. I've already discussed this with Congress, so they know my opinion on it. But it's definitely something that I'm very passionate about, and I want this tournament to be as good as it can be. And these are just what things I think that we can do to make it that way. All right, so let's move forward. There's a couple of people. I just want to talk a little bit about the Acorn or the Acorn. I know I'm singling out one person.
I was looking forward though, because I was gonna read out my Facebook chat message to the lads, and then Angus told me like, you're big. What I can't remember what he said. I'll get it now. He was like, yeah, you're getting to fucking like it's gonna be fine. Like stop, like I don't know, whatever. And lo and behold, I was fucking right. Sorry, well, like I was right. And he was wrong, and I fucking called it. I called it that he would be an issue, and
it's a massive shame as well, because him versus Tooney was a really nice race. So
yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, he goes, Al, the tournament has been going for less than a week. Just chill for a bit. There's literally no need for concern or to be ready to kick someone out at a moment's notice. I didn't say to kick him then or anything. I said, because actually, Angus, I haven't seen the Acorn post in that group at all, so I'm getting a bit worried. Though I recall he did the same thing in the Spyro Speedruns Cup in terms of going AWOL. Like, I was on it. Like, I fucking told them. Like, they could have fucking placed him early. Like,
oh shit, it was him versus Cola Pro, not Tooney. Oh well.
Yeah, the issue was he had already done a race.
Yeah.
And he'd lost that race too, I believe.
Yeah.
So it made it much more kind of, they wanted to kind of salvage it, and it gave them a big reason to try to salvage it, to kind of keep things kind of neat and tidy.
Yeah. Well, when a guy's not posting on Discord and he's like just going through Facebook, at that stage, like he's gonna, they should have just cut the losses. I know he came on, he did 3 races, that was great, but now look where we are.
He showed up the other day for like 5 minutes, and then like as soon as Toto entered the call, and it was obvious that Toto wanted to race him, he just left and disappeared again. So yeah, like I think that for the next tournament, I think that people need to be cut off very quickly, even if they have done a race.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to all the people who raced him. He did those 3. They did those 3 races. I don't think it's fair to those people, because if it's going to end up being a walkover, which I think it is going to be a walkover, basically they did those races for nothing.
Yes.
So if someone is shown to be like completely unreliable, like he was, he either be replaced or just written off entirely. I think that's what it should be, because it's just not fair. Like they still don't want to kick the Acorn yet. They want to see what happens on the weekend. But he literally said on Friday that he was going to be on last weekend, and he wasn't on at all.
Yeah.
So like at this point, like what's going to happen? He gets on next weekend and maybe does 2 races, and then the other 2 get walkovers. Once again, it's not fair to those people who do the races with him for when people are going to get walkovers against him anyway. It's not fair. And he's just completely be written out. Should have been happening in the weekly roundup, and this is something that needs to happen next tournament too.
Yes.
And we have had like I think we had like I understand what the issue is with replacing him because all of our replacements are like pretty decent at Spyro. All of our possible replacements,
But he was
including
good at
yourself, Aaron.
Spyro. Yeah, but like he was good. That's the thing.
Yeah, well that's the thing. But the problem with Group B is that it's
Already
such
too
a big,
good. Yeah,
it is already too good. Yeah, and it was like that from the beginning. It was such a shame that the group that was really good ended up having the most dropouts and made it difficult to replace them because you don't want to spoil the group too much. And I think Cola Pro, like Tooney, is pretty good. He was probably the least good out of all of the possible replacements. So I'm very happy that Tooney went in. And he's doing his races and been a good personality and yeah. So yeah, but yeah, so Tooney was, even though he was the least good of the replacements, he's still a spoiler of the group. So unfortunately, it makes it very difficult to replace people in Group B. And the Acorn is good, but yeah, it was definitely a tricky situation. But yeah, like I think it's really unfair to make people race him now or like even have people that chase him up and shit like that when he's being incredibly evasive.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So yeah, okay. So we can talk a little bit about Group B, and I think it kind of what we were saying before about the Group B being the group of death kind of gets into another conversation that that I think Alice wanted to touch on about group balancing.
So I suppose I guess what happened really was I watched Skater versus Luminize Group D race. And if you look at that race, it's just an absolute masterclass in Spyro 1. It's amazing. Yep. I could never do half the shit that they do. But neither of them are getting through to round 2. In fact, it was pretty much determined quite early on that neither of them are getting through to round 2. And it just seems like there's a little bit of people going through in perhaps other groups that would be absolutely macerated by Skater or eliminated.
Ooh.
Well,
yeah. And also the funny thing about that is
I don't know.
They're not even going to be
masticated, chewed.
The funny thing about that is also that neither of them are even going to be 5th. They're going to be 6th and 7th actually in their group.
That's kind of what I meant. They're not even close.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings up seeding for
yes.
like.
Okay. So seeding, and this is not something I've actually gotten too much into in the ISGP cast. And it's something that I'm absolutely going to bring up in the next ISGP cast, which will be with actually Congoos themselves. They insisted they wanted to be part of the round 1 kind of retrospective ISGP cast that we're having. But seeding was something that I brought up about a week or 2 before the tournament started, actually. And I said to Angus and I think Fissure as well that like you should do it. And they're like, no. And like they said it, like Angus gave me this really disgusted face, like it was a fucking shit idea. Like it gave me a face like that's so stupid. And
of course he'd say that because he's benefiting from there being no seeding.
That's right. That's right. And so like a couple of days before the tournament started, I tried again because at that point we thought that the tournament wouldn't start for another week as well. And I sent a message to Fissure like a huge list of reasons why seeding is a good idea. And then once again, like I think a day or 2 later, Angus shot it down completely, and he said something to do with the effect that like he thinks he knows how the skill level of all the people in the tournament. Because in the last tournament, there's already been a tournament, so it's easy for him to judge. And then he also said that that he would give me kind of like a he would give me the list of the groups for me to kind of like look over and see if I think that's balanced. And he didn't do that. He just kind of went ahead with the groups anyway. But I also heard the other day the kind of an inside kind of a note that Amelia was there whilst they were picking the groups. And she said that like half of the people in the tournament, they didn't even know who they were, or they
exactly. And with these newbies, you can't say that you know the skill level. You can't assume that they're James Jones, right? You have to assume some level of like.
I'm pretty damn sure as well that lots of these people who were in the Spyro Speedruns Cup, they'd actually forgotten that they were in the Spyro Speedruns Cup because I remember like early
I
conversations.
forgot about them too, to be fair.
Yeah, and so I don't think they actually took into account very much their performance in the Spyro Speedruns Cup, or like went over their stuff. So it was actually the way they picked the groups was entirely random, but without the kind of like without the sophistication. I don't know what other word I'll use. Of actually just having a random draw. So last tournament, there was some kind of choosing of groups in order to kind of like pick to try to bring out some like kind of interesting matchups. I think some of the things that they did was a little bit superficial, and it caused some issues. So it made kind of Group C kind of very energetic, very cliquey, all kind of like the fun people who were in it, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of really hurt Group B, because Group B kind of ended up being just kind of like the rejects, basically, like the boring people.
Yeah.
And then Group A was definitely selected. Like I think I was a huge like proponent of Group A, because I wanted to race Chris and Katie, and then also I was like, put all these Australians in the group because I'm going to do this whole like anti-Australian thing. And then also I was like, oh yeah, Keevan and Zindictive have been in a call and they're hilarious, so you make sure you put them in the same group. So there was some kind of rationale to why people were in a certain group, and it did cause some harm, as I said, with Group B. It wasn't hugely balanced either, as it turned out, because Group B was like easier basically than the rest of the groups. But this tournament, I feel like the way that the groups were chosen was completely arbitrary, and I know there was a little bit of like decision making, like for example, you being in a group with Fissure, it was because they could do like the epic rematch.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I don't think there was really any kind of like rhyme or reason for why people were in a certain group. Like why are you mixing Game Cindy with Keyford, or putting Med Excalibur on there, and putting Amelia? Like what's like honestly, it almost felt random and arbitrary anyway. And I think if the Congoos are trying to make their tournament kind of like look like some kind of official professional competition, which is what kind of like thing they're trying to say to the Spyro speedrunning people. They say like, oh, our tournament's actually more competitive than yours because X and Y reason. I think it really undermines that by not having a random draw, or something like seeds that would balance things out. Do you have anything more to say on this matter?
I mean, seeding does have a fatal flaw in that you can basically game it, but I think seeding paired with like sensible discretion, basically, if say Newen, not saying that Newen is a notorious cheater or anything, but if Newen hands in a seed that's like way below his skill level, obviously you go, right, okay, gonna bump him up a bit. But I don't know, yeah, seeding paired with that, because seeding is basically needed if you want a balanced group with newbies, because you have no idea, you can't assume basically that they're going to be kind of 6th, 7th kind of place, which seems to be it. Kind of like they've kind of grouped it so that they have people that they know are moderate, and then they just sprinkle a couple of newbies in there, and that's not exactly fantastic in terms of balancing, I don't think, because you
It
just
does
don't know.
have the benefit where like kind of like so there's a surprise of how good these people are when the races come out.
That's
There's
true,
that
yeah.
kind of aesthetic, but I think it is like, I think it was fine, I guess, for this tournament, but I think like next tournament, that shouldn't happen. That like that will be exclusively an ISGP2 thing. And it was good for this tournament, sort of. But we should not continue doing that, because I think it is completely outweighed by the fact that there's lots of great people in these groups, and they're not getting through it all, and they don't really even have a chance because the groups are completely unbalanced. I think that's much worse than any kind of like, it will break the surprise or something about how good these people are or something like that. And lots of people won't do the seeding challenges, and there still will be a surprise, but it just means that it just makes things a little more balanced and a little more fair. And it also means that, like if someone does have an unbalanced group, you could just say, oh, you should have done the seeding challenge. So it actually gives them a defense for why people can't get through. Do you have anything to say about this, Al?
I think yes, I agree. That's given again. Sorry to pay out Group A, but I just think that the discrepancy in talent, let's say, between groups like Group B and Group D versus Group A, I think that should mandate some form of seeding for the next tournament, or just some way so that can't happen again. Maybe we just have it so that, I don't know, the best 8 people in the seeds are in Group A, B, C, and D respectively. So, i.e., top 2 in each one or something, and then that's it. Like, then the rest of it is a crapshoot. Like, just some form of seeding, I think, is important here. Honestly, So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying before, Alice, with like Nguyen, I think you can, because of the fact that he was a semi-finalist, you could have it that like some people are automatic seeds based on how well they did in the original ISGP.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And that will also kind of encourage people to do seeding as well, because they can say like, oh, if I beat this time or something, I won't be put in the group with this person or something like that. So it's a good way to kind of like start it off, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, we probably we'll have a more kind of detailed discussion about this in the next ISGP cast. So for now, I guess we'll move on to talk a little bit more about some of the interesting matches that have happened in the past couple of weeks. We're not going to talk too much about this. We're not going to give out any awards like last time, but there's a few matches I think we find kind of interesting. So Daniel Davidson versus Tooney. I think Daniel Davidson has been a complete surprise in this tournament. He's done extremely well. He's beaten Tooney. Tooney is a good racer, and massive props to him. And I think Daniel Davidson looks like he's going to be first in his group, which is I think one of the biggest surprises that he's done so well. Fissure versus Luke kind of made the whole Alice situation pointless because Fissure beat Luke.
Which I thought was poetic. I loved that it completely nullified that. Like, it was awesome. So Fissure did really fucking well too. Like, he beat fucking Luke. Like, that's crazy, Like, that's awesome. So yeah, props to him.
Yeah. So that was really good. So yes, it also shows that like Luke is not kind of unbeatable. I think a lot of people thought he kind of was at the beginning of the tournament, but
regretting doing it drunk now.
I'm a little bit worried at the moment though, because it does kind of mean that Toto is kind of like, it seems like he is like probably going to win this tournament. If a kind of Luke can drop his ball that much. So yeah, we'll see though. I think like defeating Toto will be very like an interesting thing that people will try to do the rest of the tournament.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to handicap himself in round 2 or the grand final, just to make that clear. Round 3 or anything.
I agree.
And also a theme that I've noticed lately is that people really suck at Spyro 3. There's been so many people, there's so many people who, because of the fact that they're good at Spyro 1 and 2 but bad at 3, have just won races that they should have won.
If everybody sucks at Spyro 3, how come I'm not going through to round 2? Damn.
Because you fucking
because I'm shy in the other two.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you lost to Fraser and you lost to. You know what fucked you over? Losing to Liam. That was what fucked you
really.
Over.
And I really fucked that.
If you raced Liam in Spyro 3, you probably would have won. Definitely won. So
if I raced Liam while using my brain, I probably would have won. But
Yep.
Well, that too. But yeah, like I think there's like Fraser. Also, if you race Fraser in Spyro 3, you would have probably won as well.
Well, that never would have happened because of the way that things were transpiring behind the scenes. But
well, I mean, but you could have kind of like demanded it,
Yeah,
like
you could have.
But okay, so at the time, my idea of Fraser was this young man who had only won 5 speed runs in his life or something like that. So I'm never going to demand anything from Fraser, but I will now, obviously. But
yeah.
And by the way, if Liam gets through and I'm racing him in round 2, we're doing Spyro 3. So yeah, fuck you, Liam. So yeah, but like another person who kind of a big surprise was Amelia versus MTB. MTB just has no fucking idea where any 10 gems or 25 gems are. He just walks past them constantly, and I think that's what helped Amelia win. in that match. But yeah, like I feel like it's a lot of people, it's their weakness, their major weakness. So I think I would implore everyone to if you want to do well in round 2 and 3, play some more fucking Spyro 3, because there's so many people that just like they just are completely hopeless in it. And I'm going to definitely try to get people to race me in that in round 2, especially people who haven't really done much at all in round 1.
I hate to derail somewhat, but I feel like round 2 people should do 1, 2, and 3. Like that might be, anyway. I should have mentioned that before. Maybe I should have put this as a topic. Anyway,
well, the issue that has kind of logistical issues, a bit.
Yeah,
but
I figured. Yeah,
people. But I think more than anything, people should be encouraged to do games that they haven't really done in round 1.
Yeah.
Because there's some people like Liam who I think did like 1 Spyro 3 race in round 1 out of like his 8.
Yeah.
So people like him, like he better do at least 1 Spyro 3 or like even 2 to make up for the fact that he hasn't done it. This is a Spyro original trilogy tournament, not like a Spyro 1 and 2 tournament. And yeah. But yeah, like I think that's something that Congos definitely need to kind of crack down on in round 2.
Reminds me of IS6. I did fucking Spyro 2 round 2, Spyro 2 round 3, Spyro 2 semi-final, Spyro 2 grand final.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, you literally just made me think about that.
That tournament was the compulsory game was Spyro 2, so
actually, yeah, fair. Okay, well, luckily, for me.
All right. So yeah, I also kind of briefly just want to touch on Muddy. He got beaten by both myself and Dessert Monkey, which was a bit of a surprise, but that's what happens, Muddy, if you never come online. So you don't know the goal. What?
So much
I don't know, just the tone you took.
Yeah, there was like the tone of that was just proper like, yeah, this is what happens, Muddy, when you don't do this, you don't do that, you fucking cunt.
Bitch.
Yeah, you sound proper pissed.
Yeah. I mean, he got absolutely pulverized by both of us. So yeah, like yeah, but Muddy has also he's been a bit of a acorn. He barely comes online in this tournament. He's done this several times as well. So not very happy about you, and you'll see in the next couple of matches that like he's going to have serious competition on his hands, because I have trying to help his competitors. But yeah, you'll see that soon. We also need to discuss on this kind of topic as well as the large amounts of unrecorded bingo matches going on the server. So obviously, if you're watching the channel, you don't really hear too much about this, but like there are like several bingo matches happening like every day, or like at least 1 or 2 happening every day. And there's a bunch of people who are massively improving because of this. So, I mean, were you in one, Alice? I think you were. I know you're having controller issues like last night.
I feel like I have been in some of these like exhibition. I did 1 to 50 eggs. I think I beat Barons, so that shows how much you can improve. Although Barons has not picked up its controller for 2 years, but but yeah, I know. But it shows how much you can improve, right?
Yeah.
Even little old me can do it. So some of these other people that are getting through to round 2, round 3, who people might think, oh well, they just squeeze through, I think are ones to watch if they're very active in those calls.
I think also particularly Danta. Danta is getting scarily good.
Yeah, right.
He is.
I think he has the potential to be the most underestimated person in this tournament. I think he could actually do very well. And yeah, but this is what happens with like going back to Muddy. Muddy hasn't been online much. He hasn't had a chance to do any kind of practice races or anything like that. And he's the kind of person that's going to be left in the dust in round 2, where if he gets through,
if he shows up.
Yeah, if he shows up. Because yeah, that like he's not online, he doesn't get this practice time. And like people like Charm Sky who are doing these bingo are like massively improving. Like I know she didn't really know many glitches in round 1 and kind of did lots of like non-chitch runs. But yeah, she's like joining these bingos and she's like improving a fair bit. And yeah, some people might have to be worried that this tournament is way more competitive. People are taking the competition in this tournament way more seriously than the first ISGP, and that's something that I fucking love. And I haven't really mentioned this yet, but I'm enjoying ISGP 2 a lot more than I enjoyed ISGP 1.
I
there's a lot
agree with
less-
that.
There's a lot less drama and a lot more kind of just like competition and shit like that. And I think generally the calls have been really entertaining. And it's been absolutely great. Last thing I'm going to talk about is just go over the group standings a little bit. And like Congo's already kind of talked about this, we're not going to talk about it too much. So Group A, it looks like Kiefer is probably going to go through at 4th, and then the other 3 are almost certainly going to be Angus, MTB, and Game Sendy. And Kiefer getting through is an absolute travesty.
Yep. Well, I love it.
I fucking hate it. But yeah, like Group A is fucking shit. So Group B.
Oh my god! I gotta fucking tweet that to Connor right now. Continue.
Group B, it's looking like Gladiator, Daniel Davidson, probably Toto, and either Tuni or Vitus, and we don't know any. Like, it's gonna. Group B is like almost completely up to date. There's only a couple of races that have been done, like 2 that haven't been uploaded. So yeah, we will say probably right now that I think it's fair that it will be between Tuni and Vitus for that 4th place. That'll be a very interesting match whenever that happens. And then Group C, I think we're all mostly up to date there. It's most likely going to be Luke, Fissure, Charm Sky, but Charm Sky will be 2nd because of the head-to-head. And then 4th will be Liam, unless some shenanigans happen. Actually, no, him beating Fraser kind of seals his deal. So that's Group C pretty much done, I'm pretty sure. And then Group D, that really depends on what happens with some races with Muddy. He could be knocked out if both Cyrides and Luminize beat him. And then Cyrides will be 4th place. But yeah, so those are definitely some races to watch coming up. Do we need to discuss anything more? I think we're done.
I think we've run the gambit. It was very good. Yes, enjoyed that. And yeah, good job, Ratchet, on your moderation.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining me, both of you. I had a very good, detailed, long discussion. Good times were had by all. And we'll see you in the next ISGP cast, where we will be joined by the hosts. Thank you for watching, everyone.